Hi, this is a joke I'd heard from my dad quite a few years ago, and I just thought I'd post it here on YouTube. So, if there's people looking for jokes or like a new joke they might not have heard of uh, before, and they just want to tell it to their family, friends, or at parties or whatever, um, here's another one you can tell. And that's how the joke goes. So, these three guys who just died go up to the pearly gates to get into heaven, and Saint Peter stops them before they get into heaven, and he looks at him and tells them, "Oh, I'm sorry, guys. We only have room for two more of you in here. Uh, Heaven's getting pretty full. So what I'm going to do is just have the three of you tell the stories of how you died, and the two of you with the better stories can get in, and the third guy, I'm sorry, just out of luck." So St. Peter looks at the first guy and says, "So what's your story? How'd you get here?" And the first guy starts telling his story. It goes like this. Um, Says, "Well, I just got home to my apartment on the 15th floor of my building, and I had a long, stressful day at work, and I just wanted to get home, relax, and wind down. And when I got into my apartment, I noticed there's a smell of cologne that I didn't recognize, and I didn't wear cologne. And so I went into my bedroom, and my wife was already in bed, and it was like 7 in the evening. So I asked her like what was going on because she looked kind of nervous um, as soon as I came into the room, and she said that, "Oh, I'm not feeling well. I just thought I'd go to bed kind of early, get some rest." And I just thought, "Oh, okay." So I was thinking she had some other guy in the room or in the apartment that she was cheating on me with. So I went around the apartments trying to find where this guy might be hiding, and looked in the closet and the kitchen, the bathroom, and couldn't find this guy anywhere. And I just happened to look out on the our balcony, and I saw these some fingers like hanging over the edge. So I went out there and looked over the edge, and what do you know? There's a guy hanging there. So I started like stomping on his fingers, trying to get him to fall off because I was really like mad that my wife was cheating on me with this guy. So the guy I was stomping on his fingers. He was like moving around, trying not to fall off, and uh, he was just hanging on, just wouldn't fall. So I went back into the kitchen and got a fork and came back out and just started like stabbing at this guy's fingers, and uh, still wouldn't fall. So I just kept stabbing, and finally the guy let go and fell off uh, down the 15 stories down to the ground. And as it turns out, he landed in some bushes that were down there between the street and the sidewalk. And um, after a sec, he like slowly started crawling out onto the sidewalk. And I was thinking, wow, won't this guy die? So I went back into the apartment for looking for something like big to throw down on this guy to get him. Uh, I decided I'll get the fridge and push it over on him. So I drug the fridge out and pushed it up over the railing and pushed it down on him, and it fell down and hit him, and uh, he died. And at first I was like happy. It's like, oh yeah, I got this guy. And then after a little while, starting to feel like pretty bad that I just killed this guy. So I thought about it and decided that I wouldn't be able to live with myself. So I went out on the balcony and just jumped off because I wouldn't be able to live with myself anymore after having just killed this guy. So I jumped off, and next thing I knew, I was up here. So St. Peter looks at him, thinks about it for a second. He's like, yeah, it's a pretty good story. You can go in. So that guy uh, makes his way into heaven, goes through the pearly gates, and then St. Peter looks at the second guy and says, all right, what's your story? How'd you end up here? So that guy tells his story, and he says, well, I just went out and went to this place and bought this new rowing machine because I wanted to start getting back into shape, some exercise and stuff. So I brought this exercise machine home to my apartment on the 18th floor of my apartment building, and it was a nice time of the year. It's like weather is pretty good out, so I decided to set it up out on my balcony, and um, I got it all set up and uh, thought I'd give it a try out. And so I started growing, and almost right away, uh, as soon as I started growing, I had pulled back uh, um, one of my like rows, and uh, something on it broke, so I just like fell back and crashed through my the railing on my balcony, and like fell like 2 or 3 stories. And luckily, I happened to just like grab onto this guy's balcony, and so I just hung there for a moment, just trying to uh, get my gather myself together and uh, get my wits about me. And before I had a chance to like start climbing up, this guy came out and just like started stomping on my fingers, and I didn't know why he was trying to doing this or anything, but uh, I just hung on trying to move my fingers so he couldn't stamp on them, and I just hung on, and looked like he was getting frustrated, so he went back in. He went back into his apartment and came back out a moment later with a fork, and then just like started stabbing at my fingers, and uh, still wasn't really sure why he was doing this, but finally I just couldn't hang on anymore, so I like slipped and fell off and uh, fell the rest of the way down to the ground. And luckily, I landed in like this big thing of bushes between the street and the sidewalk, and it sort of broke my fall. Uh, had a couple broken bones. It felt like I was all like bruised and cut up and stuff. But I managed to start crawling out onto the sidewalk. But as soon as I got there, I just happened to look up or whatever, and as soon as I did, I just saw this big thing like a fridge or something just come down and hit me. And the next thing I remember, I was here. And so St. Peter looked at him and thought about it for a moment, and he told him, "Yeah, it's a pretty good story too. You can head on in." So, second guy goes into heaven, goes through the pearly gates, and St. Peter looks at the third guy and tells him, um, "Sorry, but heaven's full right now. Uh, but if you'd like to tell me your story, I'd still appreciate hearing how you ended up here." And the third guy looks at him and tells him that, well, my story's not all that interesting. Anyway, I don't think I would have gotten in, but uh, last thing I remember, I was hiding in a fridge. And that's the joke, so enjoy and pass it on if you'd like.